Welcome to the Unusual History of Everything, the podcast that uncovers the unusual history of everything around us. I'm Karen Lacey.
And I'm Melanie Dellis. On this episode, we explain why Rudolph, the beloved Christmas reindeer, has a red nose, and it's not because of alcohol.
We all know the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but what is less commonly known is where that story actually comes from, and the fact that some reindeer do have red noses. It all began in the late 1930s when a Montgomery Ward copywriter named Robert L. May was asked to create a Christmas story that could be used as a promotional gimmick for the store. Of course he said yes, and he used his real-life experiences to come up with it.
Rudolph, that shy young reindeer who the other reindeer make fun of and shun, was inspired by the story of the ugly duckling. May was quoted as saying that story appealed to him because he grew up shy and smaller than other boys, and so he knew what it felt like to be the underdog. The same year that he began working on the book, unfortunately, May's young wife died of cancer and left him to raise their daughter, Barbara, alone. His boss told him to take some time off and forget about the book, but May found solace in writing Rudolph's story and pressed on through the pain.
He began thinking about how he and his wife used to take Barbara to the Lincoln Park Zoo and how much their daughter loved the deer. They spent many happy days together there, and so he used that as a symbol for himself and Barbara that happier days were ahead of them. May didn't name the reindeer in his story. That was already done, thanks to the poem from 1820 called, quote, A Visit from St. Nicholas, end quote. May used those names and decided to make a ninth reindeer the main character in his story. But what to name him?
He made a list of a bunch of names, all beginning with R for alliterative purposes, which included Rollo, Rodney, Roland, Roderick, Reginald, and Reggie, among others. Going through them, he felt Rollo sounded too happy for a reindeer that was unhappy, and Reginald sounded too sophisticated. But when he got to Rudolph, his eyes lit up, as in a 1963 interview he gave, he said Rudolph rolled off the tongue nicely. You can find that original list, by the way, at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, which was May's alma mater, along with other papers from his collection.
So now he had a name for his underdog reindeer main character. But where did the glowing nose come from? Well, that idea came to him one day as he was looking out his office window on one of Chicago's winter days, watching the fog from Lake Michigan roll in. He couldn't help but think about the problem Santa would have if this were Christmas Eve. How would he see through all that snow and fog? He would need a guiding light, and what better than a red nose from the tip of the lead reindeer?
May immediately ran with that idea. However, after a focus group said they didn't like the red nose because it had connotations of alcoholism, the color was almost changed. Fortunately, he fought for the red nose, and the store went with it. It was an instant success. The first year, Montgomery Ward gave away 2.4 million copies to millions of excited families. Soon after, Maxton Publishing Company printed it, making it a bestseller. But it was really when May's brother-in-law, songwriter Johnny Marks, made it into the infamous song that the world fell in love with. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was recorded by Gene Autry in 1949, topping the charts.
The color of Rudolph's nose may have made the focus group feel uneasy, but May had the right idea choosing red. It's possible he may have even chosen that color because he knew some reindeer noses were actually red. There's a species of reindeer called Rangifer tardus, aka caribou, that are native to the Arctic regions in Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Russia, and Scandinavia, and those reindeer have red noses.
The color is due to the extremely dense blood vessels in the nose that supply blood and regulate the reindeer's body temperature from the cold. These blood vessels help protect the reindeer from freezing when they are running or pulling sleds or sleighs by increasing blood flow in the nose and keeping the surface warm. They also regulate the brain's temperature since, like many mammals, reindeer don't sweat. I read this, I forget who did the study, but I read this study, I think it came from the Netherlands or maybe Sweden. I really should do my homework better. But anyway, the study said that the scientists took 5 reindeer and 5 humans and put them all on treadmills, literally put the reindeer on treadmills. And then they used that machine that shows the colors of your body heat. Mm-hmm. What's that called? That machine? That an infrared.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. You can basically scan using, it's not I know what you mean.
They use it when they're looking for ghosts.
Yeah.
And if they see red or or like blue, it's cold, and red. So anyway, they put that on the people and on the reindeer to see what part of their bodies heat up during the treadmill run. And the reindeer's butts and noses got red.
I love it.
I know. To obviously regulate their temperature and stuff. And the humans got red everywhere. They were hot. But because they sweat. Reindeer don't sweat. So it was only coming out of it. So I thought that was really funny. I would really love to see their video of that study being done, like reindeers on the treadmill.
I know. Well, just the fact that you were able to keep the reindeer on the treadmill, first of all, that's pretty awesome. But no, that's fascinating. There's so many things we can learn about and different animals and things like that by doing studies like that to see like what's really going on. But the nose, I think that's just awesome.
Well, and May, I bet you he knew that some reindeers' noses were red like that because he was very smart. He was a writer. He was an editor. And obviously, to me, in my brain, a writer and an editor reads and researches a lot about probably a lot of different things. And he probably researched that at some point when he thought up the reindeer idea for the story.
And I mean, the specific ones that have that red nose, I mean, they're not too far from where he is living and working. I mean, they're Alaska and Canada are some of those places where you can see reindeer with red noses. So it's not like it was that far of a reach. And I mean, honestly, taking that out of it, the tips of our noses get red when we're really cold. And so that's like another thing to kind of think about. There's multiple reasons why you can think of the red and the cold, and it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Pretty cool.
Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. You can follow the Unusual History of Everything podcast on Instagram at the Unusual History of Everything and on Facebook at the Unusual History of Everything podcast. Find our show notes on www.musecuratorial.com. The Unusual History of Everything is written, produced, and directed by Melanie Dellis and Karen Lisi.
New episodes air every Tuesday on all podcast outlets. Be sure to subscribe to us so you never miss an episode and leave us a review. You can also see photos from our episodes and more on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening. I'm Melanie Dellis.
And I'm Karen Lisi, your host for the Unusual History of Everything.